All right, good morning. Welcome to a brand new week. Glad you made it, and looking forward to everything that God has for us throughout this coming week. So we had a great weekend. Hope you guys did as well. We started off Wednesday night. My daughter Brent and Abby and her kiddos came over, spent the night with us, which is always fun. So we got up Thanksgiving and had coffee together and chatted. We just eased into Thanksgiving. My oldest son made his way here with his family, and then Jackson and Rachel showed up. So we just kind of hung out, and then went to Tammy's sisters for Thanksgiving. Had just a great time doing that. Friday just kind of breezed through the day, easing out. Went to Abby's, had dinner. So it was just good. It was just a good weekend. Saturday was filled with some football and just hanging out and doing nothing. Yesterday, church was about the Great Commission, and love what's going on. And so last night we went and framed up a fireplace for Jackson, and here we are. So it was a great week for us, weekend. Looking forward to this one. I think we have the night off tonight, so probably planning a little wedding stuff we got coming up in about 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens there. But for now, let's just jump into some truth, see what we can find. We are finishing up chapter 4 today in the Gospel of John. And so if you got a Bible or however you look at your scriptures, you can turn there. We're going to be looking at the last few verses there. But I want to kind of get a running start of what's going on. So you remember Jesus had gone into the Judean countryside to spend time with his disciples, and so he's down there doing that. Several things take place, and so he decides that he's going to head to Galilee. Right, the Judeans were there, and so anyway, so he finished with Judea, was heading up back to Galilee. Had 3 different routes he could have taken. Chose the middle one, Samaria, goes through there, meets the woman at the well, begins to demonstrate to her his messianic ability to be omniscient. She's the first person Jesus actually revealed himself as the Messiah. Now the others, not to say that the disciples didn't hear him say that, but this is the first where he actually looks at someone and says, I who am speaking to you am he, the Messiah. She runs and tells the town. They come back. They say, hey, we believe now, not just because he told you stuff, but because we have seen with our own eyes. And so he stays with them 2 days. And then they begin to make their way into Galilee. So verse 20, let's just get down to verse 43. After the 2 days, he departed. This is new for us. After 2 days, he departed from there to Galilee. So now he's heading right on up into Galilee. For Jesus himself testified that a prophet has no honor in his own country. It's interesting that he just throws that in there because he has shown us before that there were those who believed in his name, but he on his part was not entrusting himself to them, for he knew the hearts of all men. Remember, he said that when he was there the first time, makes his way down, coming back, and it's just a statement that John wants to put in there, that Jesus has said a prophet has no honor in his own country. And there's those old adages. We don't value what's familiar, right? It's like when something's gone, then you miss it, right? Could have been that old car that you loved. Could have been a friend who left, and you realize, wow, they were really a good friend, weren't they? Right? But we don't see it at the time because we're just familiar with it. Same thing with our parents. We don't ever see them and esteem them in the honor that they should because we're so familiar with them. Until we step away, do we rarely see that aspect. Familiarity breeds contempt. You've heard that statement too. And so this is what Jesus is saying here, that a prophet has no honor in his own country. There's a familiarity with Jesus. Oh yeah, he's Jesus. He's of Nazareth. He's that carpenter's son, right? Or he's that stonemason's son, however it is you determine what Joseph was. And so that's where he is. So Jesus had gone to Nazareth, his hometown. I don't think John has told us that yet, but he preached. Remember, they tried to stone him there, right? It's like, okay, So here's what it says here. For Jesus himself testified that a prophet has no honor in his own country. So this is what he's telling his disciples, apparently, as they're heading to Galilee. And so it says, when he came to Galilee, the Galileans received him. Now, that received doesn't necessarily mean received into salvation, right? It just simply means they received him. They were courteous. They were curious in that sense, and they were courteous, but that was all it was. They had received him because they had seen the miracles. This is what he says. Only because they had seen all the things he did in Jerusalem at the feast, for they themselves also went to the feast. So, right, all these Galileans went down to Jerusalem, or up to Jerusalem as well, in order to go to Passover. It was there that Jesus turned over the money tables. It was there that, according to other gospel accounts, he did many miracles. And so they believed because of that, but not necessarily unto salvation. So I say all that just so we're clear. John is very methodical in what he's writing. He says right at the end of John 20:31, he says this, but these have been written so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. So he's making it very clear. Jesus is Messiah, and he's going to prove that. That believing is the way to inherit real life. So he's completely taking it out of the realm of ceremonies and rituals and routines, morality in that sense, for the sake of morality, the outward aspect of morality, not the one that's the inward morality of the heart. And so he's simply saying there is only one way only to real life. That's by believing that Christ is the Messiah. And that's true for you and me. There's only one way to believe, right? So we either believe it or we don't, right? And so, because we tend to give people a pass, right? Well, I mean, they're a really good person, but that's not the road. Well, but the Mormons, I mean, they sort of believe not that he's the Messiah and that he is the Savior of the world in the sense that you and me do, and right? And so every other religion will add something to the gospel, or they'll just make it about works to earn the favor of somebody, whether it's a Hindus or Buddhists or Muslims or any of the other prominent faiths in the world. Only one requires nothing but belief. Right. And so this is where we come to. John is wanting us to understand that salvation is by faith alone. But there is that adage, it is by faith alone, but the faith that works is never alone, right? That's the contrary. James says, show me your faith without works, and I'll show you my faith by my works. We don't work in order to earn faith, but once we believe, then there is a following him. And once we follow him, we do the works that he did. So there is morality. There are these things that we do that makes us unique to the rest of the world. But it begins by faith alone, right? We work from our faith. We don't work to earn our faith. Big difference. Now, so that's kind of what's going on here to set the stage for the story that we're going to look at. So John has recorded 2 miracles. If you read the other Gospels, they've already recorded several miracles. John is methodical. He wanted the wine feast at wedding, miracle of creation. He wants this one here, miracle of healing, that he's going to demonstrate what it looks like to believe in his name. So this is where we are, and this is everything that's taken place. Now, we come down to this in verse 46, and this is our story. This is now going to be the second miracle that John records, and he's very methodical about this. Now, just to be fair, so that we see, we've heard several testimony, right? We heard the testimony of John himself. Jesus, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was light, and that light was the life of men. And then he gave us John the Baptist testimony, and then he gave us the testimony of Andrew, who went and told Peter, Philip, who told Nathaniel. And so we hear these stories, right? And then we saw Nicodemus. And Nicodemus comes, and we don't see that he becomes a Christ follower yet. We only hear the conversation, but we know because of history and the historical record that he does, in fact, become a believer. And then we hear about the woman at Samaria. The very first true convert is not even a Jew. The second convert, some would argue, could be an Edomite, but also, we'll get into it. We'll see how it develops. It says this: therefore, he came again to Cana of Galilee. That's where the water was turned into wine, right? Where he had made the water into wine. And there was a royal official whose son was sick at Capernaum. Now, royal official is a signal that means this man is in the leadership, the organization of King Herod Antipas. Herod Antipas, he's a little king. They call him an Idumean. Idumean simply means that he comes from that region, which is where the Edomites settled, and so they've always been the enemy. They're Esau's line, and they're always been kind of the enemy of some of these things. And so he's a non-Jewish servant of Rome. The king is. We don't know about this royal man. We know that the king was, it's kind of a title. He was given that simply, for Rome. They gave them a king kind of a thing, but he's a servant for Rome, and everybody knows it. Nobody likes Herod. That's the way it is. And this is a royal agent or servant, official of Herod Antipas. Herod Antipas is the one who will kill John the Baptist, right? Because of he didn't like John the Baptist because John the Baptist told him he was married to who he shouldn't be married to. And it was a big sleazy thing that was going on. And at one point in the banquet, and we'll get to that, he gives somebody an offer, hey, do this and I'll let you have whatever you want. And they asked for John the Baptist's head on a platter, and that's what happened. So this is that person's, so he's a royal official underneath that Herod, okay? Just so we're clear. Now, so here's this royal official. And the town had a superficial belief because they had seen the miracles, right? They know he's a miracle worker. Big difference between miracle worker and Messiah, right? I mean, the Messiah will do great signs, but so they're not believing that he is the king that has come from the line of David that will rule the earth, the king that David said, hey, he's coming, right? So here's where we find ourselves, and it says this: and when he heard that Jesus had come from Judea into Galilee, he went to him and began asking him to come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death. So here's this man that hears that Jesus has come back to Cana, and he's seen the miracle. He saw the wine. They too saw the feast miracles because they would have gone down there. Whether the royal official did or hear the stories, we don't know. But whatever the case, so he hears all this, but he's got an issue, and this is where most people end up, I think, coming to Christ. It seemed like it's out of some difficulty. Almost every testimony that you will hear, aside from those of us who grew up in a household that already believed, and so we just naturally heard the truth, and then we, like them, like the Samaritans, believe not just because our parents do, but because we too have now come to see him as Messiah, right? But those who come to Christ at an older age, sometime after their teen years, usually it's a crisis that makes people begin to go, man, I don't know, we ought to pray, or maybe we ought to go to church, maybe, right? It's that kind of a thing that takes place. And so this is what's going on here. He's like, all right, I'm gonna go see the miracle worker. The miracle worker's in town. My child is sick. My son is at death's door, and so he's in a panic, and he knows that Herod can't fix him. He knows nobody else can. The doctors can't fix him. Herod would have had the authority to have brought in some fairly significant doctors in the region and had him fixed, but he couldn't. So here's this royal official who hears that Jesus has come from Judea into Galilee. And so he comes to him because his son is at the point of death. Then Jesus said to him, unless you people see signs and wonders, you simply will not believe. Jesus and John is driving home the point. We shouldn't believe because we see him do these works. We should believe because of what he says, not of what he does. But Jesus does the signs to prove that, because the Messiah in the Old Testament was going to do these things. But it's just important that we see this. So then the royal official said to him, "Sir, come down before my child dies." So the Lord, Jesus knows what he's coming for. He comes and he's going, "Hey, my son's sick, right? Hey, can you do something?" And Jesus hears him, looks at the crowd, and says, "Unless you people see signs and wonders, you simply won't believe." He's not going to show them a sign here, though. This is kind of interesting. He's not going to say, "Well, bring the son here, and the whole world can see." No, Jesus is locked eyes with this one. This one is the one that he wants to believe. And so this is what happens. The royal official said, "Sir, come down before my child dies. Please, you've got to come. My child's going to die. If you'll just show up," right? Jesus says to him, "Go. Your son's alive." Now, there is going to take some faith, right? You want to bring the doctor, the healer. You want to bring him to your son. You want come, right? Don't tell me what to do, or don't tell, right? If you go see a doctor, you don't want to say, "Well, you don't need to bring your son in here. Just give him that." No, I want you to see him. I want you to check him out. I want you to do these things. But Jesus very strategically simply says, "Go. Your son's alive." You know what he's saying? Either you can believe me or you're not, right? So, what is it, royal official? Do you believe me or don't you? The man believed the word that Jesus spoke to him, and so he goes home. He goes, "Okay." And so off he heads. Now, we're going to see that he believed a couple of times, right? He believed there. But we're going to see in a minute that he believes again when he starts putting the pieces together, and there's that genuine faith. We're always told that we are saved, we're being saved, and we will be saved. You can go and see where Peter believed 3 different times. There are these measures of faith, right, where I believe for this, and then I believe for that, and until we get our place where we go, "No, I believe that he is the Son of God, the Messiah." Right? And so this is what's going on. So he's heading home. I don't know what he's thinking when he's heading home, other than, he said he was healed. Let's go see. So as he was now going down, his slaves met him, saying that his son was alive. So now this is the story. He's there in Cana. He's heading back to his home because so he comes to Cana because he wants Jesus to heal him. And says, "Come with me." And Jesus goes, "Nah, your son's alive, go." So he starts heading down the road. Well, the son gets better. These are good, loyal men of the royal official. So they go, "Hey, let's run to Cana and tell him, hey, you don't need to bother anybody, man. He's healed." So they're meeting on the road, and this is what takes place. Then he said to them, so he inquired of them the hour when he began to get better. Like, okay, wait, time out. When did he get better? They said to him, "Yesterday at the 7th hour, the fever left him." Man, we were hanging out in the 7th hour. The fever it began to leave him. It's just gone. Now, there's a curious fact here. There wasn't an instantaneous healing here, which is interesting because we think a lot of times if Jesus heals, it's like bam and it's done. But it doesn't always. Here it says the fever began to leave him, right? Well, so anyway, it says this. So the father knew that it was at that hour in which Jesus said to him, "Your son is alive." So now he's like, wait a minute, 7th hour. He's backtracking. That's exactly the time I was talking to Jesus. And so he knew then that the man who spoke the word, that healing happened at that moment. And so he says the father knew that it was at that hour in which he said to him, "Your son is alive." And he himself believed, and not just him, but his entire household. This is again a second sign that Jesus performed when he came from Judea into Galilee. Now, so wow, how powerful is that? So what happens is he believes because of that miracle, and then his whole household believes. And it seems like sometimes that's the way it goes. One person gets saved. You see that with the centurion. You see that in several different places. The jailer, where he and his household, right? And so there's something about faith, that your faith will then cause a wake to happen and other people will believe also. It's an amazing thing that takes place. Same thing with the Samaritan woman. So you just need one person who will believe, and it will have this domino effect of knocking down unbelief all around. It's a crazy thing that's going on here. But anyway, that's the story for today. Powerful. We're going to flip the page tomorrow and hit up chapter 5. And Lord willing, I'll see you then. Have a great day.